G'day Bomber fans, it is official. It took a bit of time, it backflipped here and there, but it is now official. Jake Stringer has moved to the Greater Western Sydney Giants. What a stressful day, what a stressful trade period. It was slow, the last day was wild as usual. Not just for us, the Dogs, the Cats, every team pretty much. But we got one last deal done in just before the clock ran down. Jake Stringer is a Giant for very cheap. So let's talk about this deal, what it means for the club, what it means for Stringer. Let's get right into it. Alright, so at about 4:30 PM on deadline day, Cal Toomey broke news that the trade was off. The Giants got cold feet, they lost interest. Some were saying it was potentially linked to the Wacky Wednesday drama. I'd actually started writing up some notes for a response video to that, and I was pretty cut. I was trying to unpack everything. I wasn't too happy about it. As you know, I obviously wanted Stringer to move, and I'll talk about that in a bit. As I was writing those notes, I heard in my ear that it was back on. It was off again, on again. The player managers were in there trying to get this over the line. There were questions over the pay, questions over the pick. The Giants wanted to give up pick 56. They wanted us to pay his contract, and in the end, big boy Matty Rosa got a huge upgrade. Jake Stringer has been traded to the Giants. In return, we don't get pick 56. We actually get pick 53. So that's well done, Rosa. On face value, it's pretty clear to see who won this trade. I'll say that I'm not unhappy with this deal. I really wanted this to get done. My reaction now is a lot better than it was after the trade, quote-unquote, fell through. But if a neutral had to pick a winner and a loser from this trade, it's pretty clear who won. The Giants have gained Jake Stringer, fresh off a 42-goal season. Probably still has another year or two left of good footy in him, you would say. We get pick 53. There are many frustrated by this trade, and I get that. I can understand the frustration. We're giving away a guy who's given a lot to the club for quite cheap. But in the end, I'm happier with this trade going through than it not going through. I didn't celebrate, but I let out a sigh of relief as it was announced. It's weird because we lost the trade, but I'm happier with the result. I'll explain why that is, but yeah, Jake Stringer has moved to the Giants, and in return, we get pick 53. It's not really known how much we're paying of his contract, if we're indeed paying any, but we get pick 53 for Jake Stringer. So I think there's potentially a bit of a divide right now with us fans as to whether or not trading Stringer was the right thing to do, or trading him for cheap, and that's fair. This isn't as easy as right or wrong. Everyone's right to have a differing opinion, but I myself personally just don't think Jake Stringer at the football club would have been the right thing for us next year. When a player is checked out and wants to leave, especially in these circumstances where he's telling people that he's played his last game for the club before the trade period, it is so rare, or I guess it's unlikely, that Stringer would have come back to the club and things would have been rosy. That is one aspect. Stringer really did not want to play for Essendon, and you can tell that by how hard his management were pushing for the trade to get done, that he didn't want to play for Essendon. But even if Stringer did want to stay, this is a guy who really does not, it's harsh, but he does not provide much to the culture outside of being an X-factor player who can kick goals. I love Stringer as a player. He's fun to watch, but he is more often than not in the news for the wrong reasons, whether damning vision is exposed of his lack of work rate, or his out-of-shape pre-seasons, or his criminal friends that he has in the rooms. He's not someone that would be valuable to a team if he wasn't a good player, if you get what I mean. I think more than everything else, Stringer is just an elite footballer, and it's the fact that he's an elite footballer which means he can cut corners. You see him in training or pre-game drills at games. The guy breezes through, he cuts corners and doesn't put in the work that other players do. And yes, that works for Stringer. He can cut corners and kick bags of goals, but what example does that set for younger players on the team as we're growing this, I guess, professional standard at the Bombers that Scott and others have spoken about? Caddy and Kako would see Stringer jogging next year when he should be sprinting, or staying grounded when he should be leaping, and they will see him getting results from that because that is who Stringer is, and they'll think they can do the same. Stringer is definitely a best 23 player at pretty much any club. He improves our team on game day, but I don't mind losing 40 odd goals and being worse if it means we are actively trying to improve our culture as a team and the standards we set. In saying that though, I really do wish nothing but the best for Stringer. I'm going to cheer, or I'm not going to cheer him on, but I'm going to be happy seeing him hopefully get to his best at another team. The last thing I want is for me to be proven exactly right and Stringer flops at the Giants. I want him to have a good year, play good and fun footy at GWS, just not against us. And speaking of against us, I hope there is no animosity with the fans. I would hate to hear Marvel booing him as he lines up for goal. This guy gave us a lot in pretty bad years. He lit up some dead rubber fixtures. He made us watchable when we shouldn't have been. He was really entertaining to watch in that forward line, and even though that Bulldogs trade in hindsight was a bit of a flop for us, it's given us a lot of fun memories. Any rogue GWS fans out there, if you're wondering what you get from Stringer, well, The correct answer is who knows. That's the beauty of this player. 1 week he's going to have a complete shock, or even for 3/4 of a game he'll have a complete shocker. He'll be absolutely nowhere, and then out of nowhere he'll randomly turn it on and kick 8 goal of the year contenders in a quarter. He's going to miss the siders from 20 out right in front, but he'll absolutely nail a 60-meter barrel on the run. He's super unpredictable, super dangerous at his best. He's aging, probably only another year or so left in him, impact-wise. He could easily have a 40-goal season, and I wouldn't be surprised next year. But on the other hand as well, he could go out and injure himself in the preseason and lose himself for the rest of the year. You don't know what you're going to get with Stringer is the short answer. In 2024, he kicked 42 goals from 23 games. That is great. In 2023, the year before, he kicked 21 goals from 17 games. That is Jake Stringer summed up to perfection right there. But yeah, Jake Stringer is gone. It's going to feel weird not having him wreaking havoc in the forward line. I do think this will make us a poorer team in 2024. I agree with you guys saying that. But in the long term, I'm pretty confident that this is the right call for the club. We're going to have a very young forward line next year. We won't be relying on Stringer for goals, and I'm excited for that. And not just Stringer, but Jake Kelly, Dyson Heppel, Nick Hind. We've lost a lot of our older players. We're going to be quite young in 2025, quite young. We'll fall down the ladder a bit, I feel. I'd be surprised if we don't, but this is better than just making up numbers like we've been doing for so long with older players. If we kept Stringer and Heppel and Hind, we would have been better for a season or two max, but we have offloaded them, and now we have to rely on younger players that'll be a part of our future. Ideally, Laverty and Shield left too. I wouldn't say no to a clean out, but I think in the end, clubs just weren't interested in them, just like clubs weren't really that interested in Stringer. But next year, we're going to have a young team, and the year after, it's only going to get younger with guys like Goldstein, Shield, and Laverty running out of contract. I know there isn't much reason to be, but I'm excited for next year. I'm excited to see if the young core of players that we have can lift or not. I'd much rather see them fail than the guys we have had in before fail, that's for sure. So yes, we lost this trade, but I'm happy we've parted ways with Stringer. I'm happy we got it done, even though we lost. No hard feelings. I'm going to be happy to see him play good footy next year. I just think we've, for too long, needed a culture shift, and we clearly didn't want to keep him, or he wouldn't have accepted pick 53. Real quick before I go, something else to quickly touch on. Will Setterfield, big-bodied midfielder for the Bombers. He was in limbo a bit, waiting for the trade period to end to find out his future with the club. He has secured a 1-year contract though with Essendon, so he's going to be staying with the club next year. Stringer leaves, Setterfield stays. This was actually announced before the trade period ended though, before Stringer's deal was even finalised. I think it was announced before it was even called off the first time. So this would have been confirmed probably earlier this week. It's going to be a big year for Setterfield. He'll be eager to prove a lot of us wrong. I personally have been critical of him. I don't see him as a big part of our future, but we've made so many list changes as it is already, so Setterfield fortunately gets that 1-year extension. He needs a big year though. Only played the 4 games this year, finished in the VFL. He'll need to add another 10 or so if he wants a contract for 2026, so good news for Setterfield. But that is that. Stringer is gone. Again, one last time, thanks for everything, Jake. I know you probably won't be watching this, but all of us fans, and we all enjoyed him playing footy at his best. I remember 2021, that second half of the year, I genuinely don't know if I can remember the last time I saw an Essendon player play that well for a good few months. Even early this year was super fun to watch as well. So cheers, Jake, and cheers to you guys for watching. Discuss down in the comments below what you think of this trade. I'm sure there'll be some interesting conversations. Are you happy? Have we potentially been stiffed a bit by the Giants? Or are you like me, where you kind of agree with both those statements? Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and go Bombers.